So in this session, we will learn how to create JWT tokens and how we can utilize them for authenticating the user. So till previous section, we have seen till OTP, that is we can create OTP and send it to the user, and in the next request, the user will send the OTP and we will validate it with the table, with the OTP that we had created previously and stored it in the table. In this flow, in the new flow, we will be eliminating this part, and instead of OTP, we will be using JWT tokens. So our username and password authentication flow will be the same. That is, once the user sends a request for the first time, it will provide username and password. We will validate that username and password. Now, instead of generate and send OTP, we will generate and send JWT to user, not via text, via response for this time, via a response header. And yeah, in the next request, user will send JWT token and we will validate that JWT token. And if it is valid, then only we will allow it to access the endpoint. So this will be our flow. We already have this flow in our project. We have to just create this flow. For that, we will get started. And first, we will need JWT util class, in which we will store the functions such as generating the token, then validating the token, and getting the username from that particular token. So these methods would be there. So let's start with it. Okay, let's annotate it @ component because we will be using it in the authentication providers. In this, firstly, we will create a logic for generating the JWT token. For that, let's create a method for it. It will accept a user details, because in that we will have the username and we will be creating a token based out of it. We need to provide some claims. In claims, we can set the properties for the user. For example, you can put the issue date, then the expiry for that particular token. Then you can store any other details that you want to store in that JWT in claims. So it is a map and it accepts a string key and an object value. Then we have JWTs, this one, dot builder. In this, let's set the claims, dot set claims with the ones we created now above. Then we set the in this we can put any information. So let's say we'll put the username too. So for that we can put it as set subject and then user details dot get username. Then we will set issued at let's take current date. Let's set expiry. And you can provide any expiration. For example, you want to keep it for 5 minutes, you can do it. You can do it like 5 minutes, so it will be 5 into 60, and since this is milliseconds, so we'll multiply it with 1000, and then the sign width. For this we need to generate a key, and it accepts a key as well as a signature algorithm, so we'll provide it a key and an algorithm. For algorithm, let's use HS512 dot build, dot compact. Okay, now this key, let's create a method for this key. In this we will be returning keys dot this one, and we can use a decoder, like we'll use base 64 decoder. Base 64 decode, and we have to create a secret for it. The secret, it is any string which can be encrypted or may not be encrypted, and we can use it over here. It should be, since we are using HS512, it should be 512 characters long. For that, let's put it in our properties and then load it over here. Let's go to our properties, and I already have created a secret, JWT.secret. So use this one. This is more than 512 characters long, which will be needed. So this, it says 567 characters. Yeah. So any string which is greater than 512 characters will be used. Let's use it over here. We've given JWT.secret. This secret over here, and let's use this one. Okay, so this is the one. We have created a string, we have created a token, and let's return this. Okay, so now this is done. Now we need a method to validate this, validate the incoming token. So the logic for validation would be, we will be, whatever token is coming, we will be decrypting it, and we will be just matching whether the username which is present in it matches with the one we have, it matches with the one which is coming in authentication. Also, we will be checking whether the token is expired or not. So let's create a method for it. Validate token. It will accept token which is incoming in the request, and then one user details which will be loaded from the DB details. In this, let's get username from user details. Username, this one. Then to extract the claims, because we have set username in the claims, so that's why we will be extracting it. JWTs dot parser builder this time instead of builder, dot set signing key as the secret that we have, and dot build, then dot parse claim JWS, and then we have to provide the token which we are getting, dot get body. This is the one that we need. Okay, so in this claims we have all of these values, that is issued at, subject, and expiration. Let's check expiration and the subject. For that, let's extract username from token is equal to claims dot get subject and expiration to. So we could do one thing. So we could directly check whether the expiration it has, whether the token it is within the valid period or not. Claims dot get expiration dot before, we will check, and to now, new date now. Okay, if it is, we are checking whether this token is expired or not. Now we will validate. So return this username which we are getting from user details, username dot equals the username which we got from the token, and we will also check for token expired. It should not be expired, so we will be returning this. Okay. Okay, it looks good. So we have generate and validate JWT token. These are the ones which would be required. Let's use them. Now generate JWT token, we will require it in the user details authentication provider. So whenever we are authenticating the username, the password, instead of creating the OTP, we will be generating this token. So string token is equal to, we have to use JWT utils. For that, let's initialize it first. Util. Generate token, and over here we need to provide the user details. Okay, now we could log this also. And let's do one thing. We will get the user details authentication, and instead of setting the OTP, we will be setting the token. And let's remove this logic and let's return this user details authentication back. Okay, now this is done. So we have generated and sent back the and sending this authentication back to the manager and provider. So in the filter, let's tell the user, let's give the user the response header of as JWT token. So response dot set header, let's put token authentication or get details. I think we have set it in. Instead of set OTP, we will put set okay. So in user details authentication, instead of OTP, let's move it to 2. Let's rename it to token. Okay, now this is done. Over here we are sending token user details dot set token will be this token, and then it will come over here. Okay, we will be returning it. Now we were checking for OTP. Instead of this, let's check if we are getting any token. If token is not equal to the null, then use JWT authentication. For that, let's create JWT authentication object. Okay. In JWT authentication, we will have a username and a token, so that whenever user is sending, we will map username and token over here. Authorities, keep it as null. Get credentials, in this we will return token. Details null. Principal should be username. Authenticated true. And in get name, let's provide username. Okay. Now this is done. Let's create now this is done. In authentication filter, instead of new OTP authentication, OTP details authentication, we put JWT authentication. And we will provide username and token in this. So this is done. Now it will go to that appropriate authentication provider. So we have to tell authentication manager to use JWT authentication provider. Let's create authentication provider first and then tell it to authentication manager. Let's implement the methods. Component supports authentication dot equals JWT authentication dot class, this one. Okay. Now if JWT authentication is there, then it will execute this authentication method. In this, we will just be calling the authentication method of this one. So it requires a token and a user details. For user details, let's load the user by username. For that, we have a service, user details service. Yeah, user details service security. And this, we have this load user by username. So we will use it over here. Let's initialize it with constructor authentication. the user details. Get name. Okay. Now it will load it. We need the token. Okay. We also need the JWT utils. So let's use it. Utils. Now over here, dot validate token. We need to provide the token, so we will get it from authentication.get credentials and user details. Okay. Now if this is valid, let's cast it to string. If this is valid, then only we will return. Else we will throw an exception. If this, then return authentication. Else throw no exception. Token is invalid. Okay. Now we have this authentication provider. We have to tell authentication manager that this is our JWT authentication provider. What is happening? Okay, let's keep this JWT. And then let's okay, now we have created this filter. In this filter we have provided if token is not null, then use JWT authentication, and if the token is null, then it should generate the token and it should send it in the response header. Then once the request comes with token, it should go to this authentication provider, and in this authentication provider we have this generate JWT. Sorry, not this one. This is user details. This is JWT authentication provider. Will load user by username, the user details, and then it will validate our JWT token. If it is valid, then return authentication, else return token is invalid. We have created this authentication in which we have username and token. Okay, and this is the logic for our token. Okay, let's run this. Okay, so our application has started. Now let's try and hit this hello endpoint without this token. Okay, let's check in headers. Yeah, okay, so we have this token. Let's check whether this is the same which is there in. Okay, so yeah, looks same. Now let's provide token. Okay, send. Yeah, see, we are able to access the hello endpoint. That's great. Thank you.